So it's truly a pleasure and honor to be here amongst all these great people and these wonderful honorees. It's a great honor for me to be able to talk about my friend and longtime associate, Rich. I've known Rich for 53 years. I had the great pleasure of both being a teammate of Rich's for a short time and him being my coach. And so that's kind of a unique, great relationship. As you heard, Rich was a fine wrestler. I'm going to talk to you mostly about Rich the person. One thing about Rich is that he's very tenacious. He's quiet about it, but he's extremely tenacious. He was a great wrestler, maybe not so much on his feet, but on the mat, Rich was one of the most tenacious wrestlers that you would have ever seen. And it didn't always happen that way. One day, I was wrestling Rich. I happened to be on top, and things weren't going as well as Rich wanted. And so my left eyebrow accidentally ran into an elbow. And I went upstairs, got stitched up, came back down, and the same thing was happening again. And miraculously, my right temple ran into an elbow accidentally again. I went upstairs, got stitched up, came back down. Now, I'll leave it to the audience to decide if those were truly accidents or not. But Rich's mark really on the world, as you've heard about all these other great people, athletics is a metaphor for life. And they're people that taught us about life and teach us about life as you listen to all of these great tributes to these folks. And that's true of Rich. His mark's not his won and loss records, his rankings, and the things we can measure. But his greatest gift to society is what he's been paying forward his whole life. His humility. Rich is so humble. He said to me last night walking out of the ceremony, I said, Rich, that was really great. That was touching, you standing up there. And he says, yeah, but my only regret here is that I don't have time to truly thank all the people that deserve this more than I do and are the reasons why I'm receiving this. Rich could sit anywhere he wants at a Penn State wrestling match. He could sit on the floor, not literally on the floor, he could though, or on a chair by the floor. He chooses for all his old wrestlers that are here, he sits up in the track that goes around Rec Hall. He sits up there and the wrestlers come and go to talk to him sitting up there. He stays out of the limelight. That's Rich, that's his humility. That's what makes him who he is. But his commitment, his values, and this gift to so many that he's given over the years, that's what makes him special. He continues to pay that mentorship forward. When I became athletic director at Penn State during a very difficult time, Rich continued his mentoring of me. He would tell me often when he thought I was doing something wrong, but he would also tell me when I thought I was doing something right. And that relationship, those few years when I was there, really meant a lot to me and had a lot to do with, how I handled things and was able to do whatever good I could do. All who have known Rich and all who continue to know him are truly blessed with that gift that he's giving forward all these years. Rich Lorenzo truly represents all that is good about collegiate athletics. So it's my pleasure to talk about Rich today and to really thank you for welcoming this truly distinguished man now who is the distinguished member. Thank you.
My name is Pavlocsik, and I'm here representing, along with Dave Joyner, the thousands of young men who had the pleasure of competing in a program under two Hall of Fame coaches, Bill Cole and Rich Lorenzo. I'm not here to elaborate on Rich's successes as a coach. You can read that all you want at the Hall of Fame. I would prefer to discuss the virtues of this man. He coached many, many young people at Penn State, for which we're all fortunate. I met Rich 51 years ago. Now, in the bio that was mentioned by Dave, he says that he started coaching at Penn State in 1978, and that's inaccurate. He actually started to coach in 1968, which is when he became mine and Ira's and Dave Joyner's freshman year at Penn State. Back in those days, they were worried about us academically, so they had a freshman team. So you couldn't compete on the varsity level those years. So Rich, just coming out of his All-American career at Penn State, became our freshman coach. Rich inherited a fairly decent and talented group of guys on the freshman team. We ended up going 5-1, losing only to the Naval Academy plebe team, and we lost 18-15. We had 5 good guys on our team that won regular decisions. The Navy had 1 good pinner, and so we lost. And my recollection of the Navy meet not only highlighted Rich Lorenzo as a coach and a person, but more importantly as a mentor. And I want to talk a little bit about mentorship versus coaching. Coaching has a finite period of time that usually runs between 4 and 5 years for your, that coincides with your eligibility. Whereas mentoring is a lifelong, never-ending concept. Rich Lorenzo epitomizes the mentor. The Navy match showed the mentor in Rich Lorenzo. I wrestled what I thought to be the worst match of my life, but I won 2-0. And neither wrestler scored a takedown. Neither wrestler could get off the bottom. And the only point scored was my lucky near fall in the second period. And so I was dejected, went to the bench, head down, and Rich found his way to me for the remaining matches of the dual meet. And I was frustrated. And I remember telling Rich, maybe college wrestling isn't for me. Maybe this isn't something that I should be doing. Rich, the mentor, put his arm around my shoulder and told me that I'm being too hard on myself and that you need to just work harder. And I appreciated those words of support, and they were helpful. And although that turned out to be probably the one notable highlight of my Penn State wrestling career, he never gave up on me as a person. I later found out that Navy wrestler I defeated that afternoon was fairly good. If you consider 2-time NCAA All-American and 1976 Olympic silver medalist and 1996 distinguished member of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, his name was Lloyd Keyser. Rich Lorenzo stands for more than wrestling victories and champions coach, as Dave mentioned. He's served as a mentor to both the achievers and the non-achievers. I happen to be in the latter category. There's never been an occasion when this man cannot and will not find time to provide assistance, advice, and help and comfort to one of his wrestlers. In the darkest period of my life, when I lost my 27-year-old daughter to a car accident in 2009, one of the first people that reached out to me was Rich Lorenzo. 40 years after my eligibility was over, he still took the time to provide comfort for me, a non-achiever, but still remained being a mentor even in those days. In one's lifetime, if you're lucky, you have a role model that you can look up to that will influence the way you operate your life. I was fortunate enough to have 2 role models in my life, my father, Paul, and Rich Lorenzo. In the past 10 years since my retirement, I have a 37-year education, 24 of them as a high school and middle school principal. I realize how blessed I've been to be mentored by Rich Lorenzo, knowing that without the guidance and never-ending support, I'd never have achieved what I achieved in my career. On Sunday, May the 19th, 2 weeks ago approximately, 75 former wrestlers came to Penn State College from across the country to share in a tribute to this man, a distinguished member of the Hall of Fame. The respect and admiration shown by those who came showed respect, and it was not unexpected. I want to say something in closing. Joe Agressi stood up here and talked about Stephen Cannon, and it was a very eloquent speech. I enjoyed it. And he said something about being impressed when you walk away from someone. Rich Lorenzo has impressed me his whole life. And I'm thankful that I've been able to be part of that. Congratulations on your becoming the distinguished member of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Congratulations to all the honorees that are here today. You've made a significant contribution to our sport, and I thank you. And I thank you for this morning. Thanks.